Holy cow, what a process. And I'm yeah, glad that doesn't happen on the field for me than it does like in technology. But dude, I appreciate you hopping in and being our first guest back. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned to you earlier that we had a podcast and I was like really trying to revamp and wanting to bring it back in and just bring in important people and talk to different walks of life and everything about, whether it was through soccer or it was just through, personal growth and development. And I felt like your background and learning more about you was really interesting. So um, especially after like everything you've kind of overcome and just go, all right, I'll keep going and go through it. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of where you're at.
Yeah. No, thank you, man. That was a very warm introduction. I feel honored to be your guest. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Uh, it's been a long time coming. It's been a journey, but yeah, not always easy. So for I guess the listeners and whoever doesn't know me, I'm Ethan Ash. I played Division One soccer for the last couple of years. I started my career at University of Denver. Then I made my way over. I transferred to University of North Florida, where I had the honor of getting warmed up and run into the ground by yours truly. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, it was crazy because I actually met you at Armada first
yeah,
because I was
yeah.
playing summer ball for a bit. But yeah, no. It's been a long time coming, and all the injuries and stuff that I've had kind of over the years. Unfortunately, it led me to have to medically retire a couple months back during the about halfway point through my last season.
Yeah.
Developed residual TBI and severe post-concussive syndrome, and unfortunately got the word from the neurologist that it was time to hang up the boots if I wanted to kind of have a quality of life moving forward. And man, that's something that I have not been able to come to terms with, and I don't think I'll ever be able to come to terms with it.
Yeah.
But the journey and kind of everything that I've learned throughout my entire years of playing soccer and kind of developing that, pushing myself to the limits. That's something that I can never get back, and that's something I know I'll be able to use in another aspect of my life. Just kind of figuring out what that looks like has been the hardest part for me, and obviously on the road to recovery now, trying to figure out how to get my head back to it being healthy as what a normal would, at least what a normal person would consider healthy
When
enough.
no, yeah, 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 for sure. So, from your perspective and your experience, explain to us what that is and kind of what the symptoms are,
Yeah,
and maybe give us a little bit of a background on kind of what got you to that.
of course. So, yeah, honestly, soccer. A lot of people don't think that it's a very contact based sport, but I'm living, breathing proof that that's the exact opposite. It is definitely contact. So basically, I suffered about 8 concussions through my career. They all started really like my major one started when I got into playing college soccer. I had maybe one or two throughout my high school years playing academy, but a lot of it was just what you would expect, some head to head. One of them was like an elbow to the head. That was one. I just got cleated in the side of the face one time, which that's pretty ridiculous. Like you got to be real athletic to get your boot up in the side of my jaw, but it
Studs up.
happened. And then a couple here and there, and then I had a bad one here at UNF about from when I had to medically retire about 2 years prior to that, a year and a half prior to that. I was defending a cross that came in, and our keeper came out to claim the ball, and I actually got pushed into the side of my keeper's hip bone and completely knocked me out. Yeah, my hands went up. I started to seize, and that was probably the one concussion that had set me over the edge and had knocked me out for a really long time. And so for my career, as soon as that concussion happened and for the 2 years to follow, it was a struggle, man. It was extremely difficult. I don't really think many people know truly how bad it was and what I was doing on a day-to-day basis to kind of try to make myself feel good enough to train. And that was my motto for the last 2 years. It was, what can I do to prepare my body and to prepare my head to withstand the intensity of the game. That was my goal. So basically, I would see my neurologist. I was on a few medications, kind of really just monitoring the symptoms. But basically, a day would look like this. So I would wake up probably about 6 ish, get into the facility, and I would do basically mental work, mental framework to try to get my brain firing on all cylinders. So I would do a lot of VOMS testing. I would do memory work. I would do balance work. All of that stuff was part of my like prehab. Before we would even go out on the field to warm up, I would be in with Logan, our AT, for about an hour, kind of doing that stuff on a day-to-day basis. So then I would go out to train, and I would kind of just get going. I would get my heart rate up. Obviously, what you had us do, all the prehab stuff, it was amazing. It was amazing, right? Getting my heart rate up, but trying to do so in terms that I could control. That was like the whole goal. So I would do that. I would train, and then most days we would have a lift after, and then honestly, the come down part is what I struggled with most. So after all that very high intense training for 5-6 hours in the morning, I would come home, and on the come down, I would be extremely dizzy. There were a lot of times that I couldn't be in light. Light would really bug me. Um, and then the focus and concentration was a crazy factor. So I found it extremely hard to do school. It was really hard to focus. I couldn't stare at my computer screen for more than, I would say, 10 minutes at a time without getting dizzy. I couldn't keep track of like my words. I couldn't, follow words on pages, follow the screens. Driving became difficult. You know, I would it was bad, but I would almost always feel like I was drunk. I couldn't walk around steady. I had to have people drive me to training or drive me to class, whatever it was, drive me to get food. So because of all that, my day after training, I would come home and I would usually sleep for about 4 hours. I would just knock out in a dark room, and then I would wake up. I would fuel my body. I would eat. I would do homework if I could. I would watch film with the staff, do anything that I could, and then I would actually be having to take like melatonin or Benadryl, whatever it was, to try to knock me back out by like 9, 10 p.m. And I did that because it would help with the dizziness, because I couldn't lay flat on my back.
Okay.
If I laid flat on my back and I tried to close my eyes to sleep, I couldn't do it. I would get sick and all of that stuff. So I couldn't roll over in bed quickly, because if I did it quick, the the balance
Yeah.
in my head, it would really mess me up. So that was my process. But I was able to do all that stuff for about 2 years. Sure, I had worse days than others, but I would wake up the next day and I would feel good enough to be like, all right, my body's good. I'm ready to train. And I would just repeat the cycle for 2 years straight. After games, it was a lot worse, because games are just so high intense for 90 minutes, right? Now I'm an outside back. I'm doing all these different movements and stuff. But what I didn't realize, or what you don't really realize in the moment, is there are hundreds of thousands of different actions in soccer in any given
Right.
moment, right? Well, that means your body's going to react in hundreds of thousands of different ways, and I can't control any of that. So after games, I'm clocking in 10, 11 miles a game. I'm coming home and I cannot function. I mean, it was bad to the point where my roommates, like, they had found me passed out on my bathroom floor a couple of times, um, just because I must have.
Was that just through fatigue? Was that
Yeah,
was that just
fatigue.
through fatigue?
It was through fatigue. It was through these episodes that I was having. Um, a lot of times it was just the vertigo and everything got so bad that my brain pretty much just shut off. I would try to, like, go and take a shower, go to the bathroom, and I'd wake up on the bathroom floor having no memory of how I would get of how I woke up there. It's just the body was just fighting. I was just pretty much in survival mode, but it really didn't matter for me as long as I was waking up the next day and feeling good enough to train.
Right.
And unfortunately, those symptoms really got the best of me. And I mean, the session. It was a session last season. It was right before our first conference game,
Yeah.
and I had felt an immense like amount of pressure in my head before the session that morning when I woke up. So I don't remember if this was maybe like September, early October ish, and I usually have a headache, so I didn't really think twice about it, honestly. But then I woke. So then we leave the film room. We go onto the field. We go for the session, and we're starting off with this super light warm up and like very basic passing pattern, like barely breaking a sweat. And I just remember taking a knee outside. I was like, man, I did not feel right. Something feels off. I was like, I just took a couple breaths and I went back in and I did one more cycle through the passing pattern, and then I immediately like seized and I fainted. Um, Everybody was freaking out. The AT rushed over. They activated EMS, and they had to stretcher me out on the ambulance and take me over to the hospital, and ran all these tests and stuff. And they basically said that I had lost immediate blood flow to my brain, and um, I pretty much have gotten to a point now where my body, I've reached its threshold. Like I've passed the
Yeah, there's
threshold.
no
I can't
more.
go back down.
Yeah, um, do you think that at any part in your early career, like part of high school, let's say, that you got a concussion or maybe even a little knock and you just kind of ignored any type of, did you have any of these symptoms beforehand, like in high school, and then kind of brushed off like, it's a normal concussion, we did the concussion protocol
Yep.
and we just kind of move along, and did the symptoms stay around?
No, for sure. So I definitely experienced some of these symptoms when I was younger in high school, having gotten knocked in the head, whatever it was, if I was diagnosed with a concussion or I wasn't, when you do all the testing and you get cleared in some way, some manner, that pretty much I have a thought in my mind and that convinces me like, all right, I'm set, I'm ready to go. It
Right.
just I'll feel better. Like I'll
I mean, it's
I'll
your
feel better.
competitive
It'll go
nature.
away.
That's your competitive nature to want to do that, right? To
Exactly.
and also because what is the scariest thought? That you're not okay, something is wrong, and then the scarier thought, you're like, I can't compete, I won't be able to do this, and you want to be able to compete, you want to be able to get back out on the field. Um, but do you feel like at any point you rush that process, or do you feel like, hey, I did what I was supposed to do,
Yeah.
and it's just part of the games and part of what's been going on? Um, do you think that you came back too soon?
It's man, because I've thought about
Have you
this a
thought
lot.
about that? Yeah.
I've thought about this a lot. Like all of the what ifs. Like, what if I waited a week longer in this moment, or what if I did this one thing extra? And I think, I mean, I've done nothing but drive myself crazy on those what ifs. That
Right.
I don't know if there's truly any way to tell. In certain moments, have I maybe like gone back too soon? Maybe, but I I completed all of the proper protocols with all of the strength and conditioning staff in the AT department to a T. Like dotted every I, crossed every T. I they would not have put me back on the field if they did not feel like they were comfortable enough to put me in that situation. And them
100%.
having that confidence in me gave me all the confidence to be like, yeah, it's not too soon. Like I'm ready. Or if I had any lingering symptoms, it's all percentage based. Like you're never 100% as an athlete ever. There's no way if I go to any athlete and they tell me that they're 100% healthy,
Yeah,
they're either
it's
lying or they're
it's
full of themselves. There's just no way.
not
There's no way.
today. Not today. There's very little ability to recover.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there's very little ability to hydrate properly. These kids, like today, we have seen the amount of like, oh, I drink so much water, but they really don't understand what we're saying by hydration. Your electrolyte balance, and those things do play a part in concussion protocols and getting
Oh yeah.
guys and girls back into a healthy, standard, is hydrating the brain. And I'm wondering if at any point throughout your symptoms, it was just this thing of like not having the right uh, hydration for your brain, right?
Yeah.
And creatine is one of those things where I feel like, and I think I remember talking to you about this briefly about,
Yeah.
I think everybody should be on creatine.
I agree. I completely
Like
agree with you.
high school age kids need to be on creatine. It is a hydrator. It crosses, from all of the research that we've looked at and I'm kind of regurgitating information, but it crosses the blood-brain barrier. It helps hydrate. It helps from cognitive standpoint. It helps from a sleep deprivation standpoint. It helps from obviously muscular
Of course.
standpoint. So it has all of these benefits. It's a naturally reoccurring thing that happens within our body. It's also reoccurring food, right? In eating meats. And I just think it's one of those things where now, because kids have more screen time, less time to recover, like it should be an added tool to use to recover. And I'm wondering, and obviously you have, like you said, all of these what ifs. What if you had used it more to help
Yeah,
with this thing? But the day that happened, it was the day I wasn't there.
I know. I know. I just remembered it was such a fluke thing, man.
And I got to be honest, I don't know how I would have. Obviously, you don't know how you would react, and obviously, you have shout out to Logan, who is after meeting Logan, and having been around good and bad ATCs, he's just one of the good ones.
He is, man. He's
Um,
awesome.
so having him as a like a support staff to what we do. He's ATCs are like this extension of performance, but
Yeah.
they get viewed, I think, in like a different segment. Where I think that every medical professional and performance staff and strength and conditioning, we're all part of the performance. Um, so yeah, it's just one of those things, man.
Yep.
You have such this leadership quality about you, and it's one of those like, why did this go on? But I remember having this conversation with you, going, okay, this is something where you physically can't do anymore, but I think it's something that you can now contribute.
Yeah.
Your story is going to have to contribute to um, getting this information out to younger athletes, getting the information out to coaches and parents, and really just kind of now being this not a poster child, but like, hey,
Yeah.
if you have these symptoms, don't ignore them. You
Yep.
know, we want to be tough. We're masculine. Even our girls, they're tough. They want to compete and they don't want to give up any playing time because they're going to lose it to their
Yeah,
competitor,
man.
their
Yeah.
teammates.
It's a
Like
serious thing. Yeah.
it's a serious thing.
Yeah.
But I go, if you want the longevity of it all, and you've decided, and obviously you've made a very difficult decision that it's hard, dude. I can't like I've never had this.
Yeah.
I've never had well, hold on. We didn't have those protocols growing up, so I've probably had concussions
Yeah, I'm sure.
and not really paid attention to them.
Yeah.
Um,
Tons of people.
but I think now it's just one of those things. Okay, it's part of the game. It's in any injury, right? Whether it's an ankle, ACL, hip, labor, whatever it is, it's a part of physical competition.
Yep.
You're going to hit each other. You're going to run into each other. Your brain is shaking in your skull. It's going to happen.
Yeah, man.
But I think that there's ways now that we can go. All right, what are ways that we can improve the health of the brain,
Exactly.
the strength of the neck, right? What are some concussion things that we can do? But more importantly, how do we really recover, and
Yeah.
how long does it really take? And I don't know if we really know, because I haven't really looked into that
Yeah.
aspect of it. But
No, I mean, in that sense, it's different for every single person and every single brain, right? The the thing that I'm grateful for right now is that you mentioned something about me being in a spot where I can now provide this information, right? To try to let people know. And the thing that I'm grateful for now is I am truly learning so much about my body and my brain and how they interact with each other. And there are, I could probably name at least 30 different things right now that I have learned since having to stop play soccer that I could have used in my time during like my first concussion, and I'm convinced I'd be in a 100% better of a spot than I ended up in, strictly just because of the knowledge that's out
what
there
do you
telling me.
what have you learned that
Yeah.
has like that has
So
kind of like made you that? Yeah.
so the biggest thing for me that that was kind of like a wake up call. Is everybody thinks like when like, oh, like you don't head the ball, don't do this, don't do that. Like they're trying to change the rules for like the young kids to
Right.
like get rid of headers and all that. People don't understand how much force it actually takes to get a concussion. Like it takes a decent amount of force. Like
Okay.
even off of like a goal kick or a punt from a keeper from halfway, right? And I had that direct on. The chances I get a concussion from that are like slim to none, like almost nothing. Like it takes a decent amount of force to get a concussion. So that's one thing. So I think there is this stigma around like concussion, like, and there should be like, right. We don't know nearly enough about concussions and the long-term effects, right? We don't know enough about any of it to be having these difficult conversations. And I understand that. And I understand like everybody's worried and concerned, right? But I've been through it, having been through these difficult moments. Don't take away headers from the game. Like
It's
it'll be
part of the game.
okay. Like that
Right.
there, it'll be fine, right? Like, but on the flip side, we have to be careful considering the fact that like whenever I was getting these scans done and these tests done and they're imaging my brain, right? There, I'm always like, I don't know why. Like, I just don't have a good feeling. Like, why are you scanning my brain? Like, I don't
Hmm.
think anything's gonna be wrong, right? And they're convinced that they're gonna find some things. And this is something that I learned is they're really just looking for any abnormalities, irregularities, or basically sites of like an aneurysm or
Sure.
like certain things with just like the blood vessels. But with a lot of concussions, especially in sports, I found this information out from the doctors and the neurologists that I've talked to. You are not dealing with a structural problem in the brain. So you can go and you can get all these scans and these tests done almost all the time. Everything's going to come back normal. Everything will come back clean. What these concussions are doing is they create functional problems down
Okay.
to the core. They are all functional problematic based. So all of these symptoms that I've been having, they're all
Well, I was gonna
residual.
ask you about motor patterns.
Yeah.
Did you have like motor skill issues?
So what I found that a lot of times immediately like post concussion and like the weeks to follow, I'll have a bad stutter. I can't like get my words out. Like my mind and my mouth are moving at two different speeds.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. And then for me, it was very visual and like vestibular related.
Okay.
That was the huge thing for me. And I just thought I either one, like I just got told, oh, you have vertigo. I was like, okay, like maybe, I guess. I just wasn't convinced, right? So all these different things. But I learned that these are all residual symptoms. They're all functional problems from the concussions. Because basically, it's interesting. I saw this line, and it was immediately when a concussion happens, your brain gets rattled, and the thing that's causing all these symptoms is basically there's misfiring from the neurotransmitters. Basically, there's
Right.
this huge release of these neurotransmitters, right? Um, but at the same time, there's also a lack of cerebral blood flow, and so
Okay.
that does not mix. It's like you're in a car and the car engine needs so much more fuel to get running, but there's like a blockage in the fuel chain to get
Okay.
that. That's
Okay.
basically what's happening, right? So what I'm learning is there's like five-ish things that can be at a core, right? That those are your baselines. And if you address those baselines, a lot of the symptoms that you have, they'll get a lot better. Not, I
Okay.
mean, depends on what they are and
Right.
how severe they are. Could take some time. But one of those huge things that I learned for me in my case was blood flow and heart rate. Um,
Like
being out,
monitoring
yes,
those.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Specifically.
I learned very quickly that one of the big things that pretty much gave me the symptoms that I was having, and to the extent of the symptoms that I was having, was that I was in an uncontrolled environment regarding my heart rate, right? I'll go back to the statement I had before of in a game and training, you have all these different actions, so many different actions in every minute of the game, right? In training, in games, whatever it may be. And your body reacts to that, right? So if it's a pass here, I'm like, okay, I have to react this way. My heart rate will go up. Then if the ball's on the other side, okay, my heart rate can come down. Then if a clip ball, oh, heart rate jumps up, back down, right? I was in such an uncontrolled environment where my heart rate was bouncing back and forth, up and down. And my body did not like that. My brain, the blood flow, it was not that was like the misfire that was happening. And so my time away from soccer, I've I bought a heart rate monitor and everything, and I've been able to control that. So now I know like to the number what I can go at. Like if I'm going for a run, right? Also,
Yeah.
I couldn't really even run, right?
Right.
Now I'm training for a marathon, man. I'm testing my body for new
There we go.
limits, right?
Okay.
And so like by no means am I a vegetable now, right? I'm just figuring out these new ways to
Yeah,
become the
and
master of my body.
you're pivoting into a different. You're
Yeah,
making adjustments based on what your body can tolerate and what can
exactly,
do. And obviously, the competitor in you, you're super fit, and you want to stay super fit. You want to
exactly.
go compete. You want to go do stuff. I just obviously you have these worries in the back of your head, like, oh, will it happen again? But has it really like? Have you had these symptoms since you stopped playing?
Yep.
How much have the symptoms started to decrease?
Yeah. So, I there's a part of me that always never wants to say this because I'm like, oh, if this number wasn't playing in my favor, maybe I didn't have to play like stop playing soccer. But no, the symptoms have truly decreased like a very
A large amount.
very large amount. I would say I would say by at
Like
least 50%.
I would say, oh, okay. So over 50% of the time now, you're able to have a normal. You feel at what this is like this new normal. So is it weird to have a new state of feeling, or are you feeling, oh, something is wrong?
Yeah, like it's a little bit of both because I'll forget, like, I lived in this state of living with these symptoms for years of my life. And that became my normal. So now coming like this, I'm like, oh, like I've been staring at my computer screen for like more than an hour and I'm fine. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah,
It just,
yeah.
and like to a normal person, they're like, what? Like, how could you not stare at a computer screen for more than an hour? But for me, that's just like unheard. It's
That's
just
a lot.
not
Yeah.
heard of.
Are you using any tools like just like blue light, like the blue light blockers?
Yeah.
You use this stuff like
Yeah,
that?
so yeah, blue light glasses you got. There's settings on TVs now. You just dimming the brightness, all
Okay.
that stuff. But I also heard of like your brain is a muscle. So if you pull a muscle in your body, you're not just gonna like sit, let it rest for 3 months and then just jump right back in.
Yeah,
The whole
but so
time
like
you're
the,
rehabbing
the
it.
organ of it is like you're trying to train it to actually
Exactly. It's
get the new
exactly the
things
same
going.
thing, right?
Okay.
Just as I would have a sprained ankle or whatever, I'm not not doing anything to ankle for 3 months and then just jumping right back in. No, like since day one, I tore
Right.
like three ligaments like 2 seasons ago, and the day after I did it, I was in there. I was just moving it. I was just doing exercises, everything, because you have to retrain and you have to build that muscle back to where it needs to be. Brain is the same way. You need to just retrain. You need to exercise your brain.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different things that I'll be doing. So I'll be doing the VOMS
Okay.
testing. I'll have like a popsicle stick with like just like a T on it, and I'll just use that and I'll scan the room. I'll go up, down. I'll only focus on my eye movements. There are a bunch of peripheral vision exercises that I train, moving targets, that kind of stuff. A lot of it, man. It's all just training it's training the baselines. So that was the other thing. So beyond heart rate, I figured out now that I'm in control of my heart rate, and now
Yeah.
I'm just gonna test. Right, I'm just gonna keep climbing. If I hit a threshold and I'm like, man, my symptoms were not doing too well today. I know that that's my threshold for the next about 2 weeks, and then
Okay.
I'll just work up and I'll train more consistently at that threshold for those 2 weeks, and then the next day I'll go. Can I go 2, 3 beats higher? And am I okay? How's that feeling? And then it's a timing thing. How long can I stay in that heart rate zone for? So all of these things that I'm learning. And the other thing for me, a big part was the vestibular, the vision, and the
Right.
balance. That was a huge thing. And so that's been very difficult for me trying to figure out how to get better with that. Because I also learn, when you get a concussion, almost every time you get a concussion, there's whiplash involved. And so when it can be slight, it can be severe, whatever the case may be. But when that happens is everything is under immense amount of tension from your neck through the base of your skull, your ears, everything, right?
Okay. Right.
So there are baselines that you can check that you would think have nothing to do with your brain, nothing to do with the concussion, but a lot of the visual and vestibular dysfunction that I'm having, I'm learning it might be involved like in my neck. I may
Okay.
have some tension in somewhere in my neck that, is putting a lot of pressure and tension that somewhere in my head is compensating. And it's just making me think that it's
And
something
these are and these are like these
opposite.
are things that you've learned from the physicians and neurologists
Exactly.
that you've been talking to.
Yeah. No, it's exactly. Yep.
Okay, so now in the you're in this new environment. You're doing this new thing. You're finding your heart rate zones. Are you feeling good? Like, you feel like you're running well? You feel like, hey, I can actually I can do this without having, I guess, symptoms, right? I'm not being knocked around. I'm not
Yep.
being, I'm not having to, you know, defend and do all the things. But what is it what is it your goal now? Is it what? How long is this marathon? What is it?
No. So I'm doing. I just started like this program. I've been running for like 12 weeks. I was training for. I'm just doing it in stages. So I was training
Okay,
for
okay,
10K. Then I'm going to do a half marathon. Then I'll do a marathon. I
okay.
just casually ran a 10K the other day, and that wasn't even
How,
my day to do it. And I'm like, man, I'm like that came way too easy. So like, let's move on. So I'm I'm
good.
I'm, I'm
Okay,
getting the process now. But yeah, so kind of going along with what you were saying, it's it's difficult because even though I'm not getting knocked around or I'm not getting in, head to head contact with all these sports, I still have symptoms because so much of it, pretty much all of
this
my
is
symptoms
like
never
lingers
came
on.
from, bumping a guy on the field, right? It was during the warm up. It was just running. It was just the intensity. It was the intense nature that my body couldn't handle. Um, so I found that, I tried to run at a pretty high speed for a minute longer than I should have, and I knew immediately. I was like,
Okay.
oh man, I was like, I can't do that again for a minute.
Do you
Uh,
think that like all of these little knocks here and there, maybe they weren't concussive, but they were accumulative.
for sure.
Like you
Oh,
had
for
these
sure.
little things that maybe you weren't knocked out, wasn't severe, you didn't have a concussion, you were never diagnosed with a concussion,
Yep,
but you had these little accumulative issues that you've kind of built along.
for sure.
Has there been, when you do these images and you've done these scans, has there been any showings that there's like gaps in the brain, like from, hey, are you gonna have like an Alzheimer's based issue? Do you have any memory issue?
Yeah.
Like, have you had
Yeah.
any of
So
that?
yeah, so that stuff that it's difficult to kind of understand and get into that as well. And I've asked all these questions, but the only thing that they found on my scans was I had something called an infundibulum, and they basically it was like a dark spot in a part of my brain, and that needs to be monitored because there's potential for that to develop into an aneurysm when I'm old.
Okay,
But there was very little correlation with that and my symptoms,
really?
almost none. So they were like, there's no way. Other than that, the only thing that they can really tell is based on blood cells, the blood vessels, and then the blood flow. And that's how
Okay.
they figured out that I wasn't getting enough oxygen
Blood,
flow to my
blood
brain.
flow.
That was the big thing. So is there a risk of, yeah, like Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever the case may be down the line? I'm sure there is. Um,
You're just not. You're not. It wasn't presented to you as if it was, hey, this dark spot is, a hole in your brain.
no, no,
Yeah.
never. No,
Okay.
it was more of like it's there, but like it's not too much of a concern. And that was like the
Okay.
only thing that ever came up structurally on a scan, besides the
Okay.
blood flow and blood vessels and all that
Okay.
stuff.
Okay.
So it's hard
Is
because when you go to a neurologist and he's like, for 2 years, he's like, I would go in and and I would tell him, I'm like, I'm not getting better. Like if anything, I'm just getting worse. My symptoms are there, but
yeah.
I would tell him my processes. He goes, you just need to think about the bigger picture. Think about what you want your future to look like. And that's really all he would say. Because at the end of the day, it's my body. It's my choice, right? He can give his professional opinion. I can do with it what I what
What you want? Sure. Yeah.
exactly. It came down to the point of that episode happened when you weren't there, and he saw me. He's like, "You seriously need to
Like
stop."
enough is enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like, "You seriously like it basically like if I want to be able to like walk,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
be
That's pretty
functioning,
severe.
he's like, you need to just stop." And the thing is like, and that's it's so dangerous because as an athlete, you're just born to just gamble. Like I gamble with my body, my
Sure.
brain, everything. I
Yeah.
gambled for a while, right? His thing is like you absolutely never know with concussions. You do not know which one is going to do it to you. He's like, you could have four more and be just fine. He's like, you could have no increase in symptoms, nothing. You could have one more, and that could be the one.
Yeah.
He's like, there is no way.
Is there like I don't know, because I really don't, and I've never looked. Is there a concussion center
So
in
there
Jacksonville?
are a bunch of places. I actually just did this online course. I finished in about 3 months ish. That's where I
Okay.
learned a lot of this stuff. It was called the Concussion Fix Program,
Okay.
and it was based out of Canada. And you have there's neurologists on there. There's dietitians, sports psychologists, because their whole thing was a big part of it is mental, like
Okay.
the mental of like, oh, I have this and I'm just not going to get any better. Like the science behind the mental aspects of this stuff were insane. Like I never would have pictured it. Never would have pictured it in 1,000 years that it would play such a bigger factor on the recovery from concussion
Hmm.
symptoms.
Hmm.
And it has, man. It's been unreal that something that I don't see a lot of like interest in, like the mental capacity side of, the psychology part of it. I was always very like, this is what it is and this is how to fix it. I was completely wrong. Like the mindset of it is insane, and it's actually helped my symptoms a lot, and it was pretty amazing to listen to. But diet was another thing, man. Getting the right foods in you, um, hydration. What you were talking about, it's key, man. It's insane. You wouldn't believe how much connection there is with the brain and your gut. It's
Yeah.
unreal. Like it blew my mind. So I'm just learning. I'm just trying to soak in, and I'm putting this in very layman's terms. Like
Yeah.
there are a lot smarter guys than me talking about all this stuff that I can refer you to. But for me and for anybody, any regular average guy listening, like man, just what you
Is this a like a course? Is this
literally,
like
yeah.
a
Imagine it almost like a Canvas module, like for
Oh, okay.
school. Um, yeah, you go through. It's literally just online lectures, but in there they supply you with resources, tools, exercises, centers, everything that you would ever possibly need to go and reach out to go and reach out for
And
help.
what is it called?
It's called the Concussion Fix Program. It's
Concussion
amazing.
Fix
Yeah,
Program.
yeah,
Okay.
Concussion Fix. Yeah, all online, based out of Canada. It was amazing,
Nice.
man. It was amazing. But a large part of it, right? Like I feel better. I finished through the module A to Z. Everything is fine, right?
Right?
But I'm nowhere near close to being where I want to be,
Sure.
right? I still have
Sure.
symptoms. Yeah, of course they've gotten a little bit less severe, but figuring out those new things that I can address. So the big thing for right now is obviously I've figured out my heart rate. I'm learning about that, right? The next thing for me on my list is the whole vestibular vision thing. I want to try to find the core foundation of what is wrong in that sense in my body.
For you.
I want to
Yeah.
pinpoint where that problem is, and I want to address that, and I want to learn about that. So whether that be my neck, my vision, my head, whatever it is, I want to try to find, and that's my next thing, because that's the thing that probably gives me the most trouble on a day-to-day basis still.
Do you normally wear glasses um
I don't.
contacts or anything?
No, no, I don't.
Okay.
I was prescribed glasses when I was a kid, kind of throughout high school, but I
You just
never
didn't
wore
wear
them.
them.
My vision's not that bad. It's not necessarily, when I say vision, it's more of movement pattern. So
Okay.
I have a very hard time like tracking.
Like
So
rack, yeah.
again,
Is
so
it
like yeah, so it was crazy coming back and playing soccer. A lot of times we do passing sequences and stuff, right? In mid game, it was like hard for my eyes to track the ball where it would move if it was moving at a fast pace. and that would induce symptoms, and I'd have to do it like a double take. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
it's like I lost my bearings. It's like somebody loosened some screws, and that was really
Have
hard.
you ever played with like arginine, like L-arginine? It's an amino
No, I have
acid.
not. No.
So L-arginine may I when we talk about blood flow and some of the things, it's a natural amino acid that helps dilate the blood vessels.
Yeah.
You something that you can look at, but and the one thing I don't know for sure. So if there's people out there that do, forgive me, but I assume it crosses the blood-brain barrier for that to happen. So it might be something for you to look at and go, hey, arginine is something that could be used
Yeah.
to improve the symptom, whether it's, and again, most people use it for like a workout to get a better pump or like,
Yeah. For sure.
right? But, but you can use L-arginine to help decrease blood pressure.
It's amazing, man. Yeah. It's
So
amazing.
you
Like,
could use it.
yeah, what you were saying with creatine as well. Like I've been taking creatine for like the
Yeah.
past two years now. I've been on creatine, and
Okay.
it was only, man, probably a year ago where I figured out it was extremely beneficial for cognitive and brain function.
Yeah.
Before I just started taking it, honestly, just for a
This is for
lag,
muscle, for
yeah,
strength.
to build
Yeah.
muscle in the gym on off season. I was like, yeah, let me start taking creatine. And then a year later, with all this head stuff, I do more research. Bang, creatine, one of the number one things for cognitive brain function. And
Yeah.
I've not missed a day, not missed a day in the past 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I listen. I advocate for it. Sometimes I get a little bit of shit for it online, or parents are like, no, I don't. He or she's too young, and I'm like, well, if they eat meat, then they're having creatine. They're just
Exactly.
taking it in a different form.
Exactly.
So, but that's neither here nor there. But I think the more we educate and bring certain things to the forefront, it'll get better, and people will say, "Oh, all right, should have." Here's the thing: is I don't want it to be too late,
Yep.
where young kids, I should have started taking this years ago, or how in that, and we don't get the benefits out of it right away.
Yeah.
And maybe that if they took creatine when they were younger, that if they happen to have a concussion, that it actually does, like it's not as severe.
No, for
So
sure.
that's what I hope. And again, I could be wrong, guys. I'm an idiot. But I think for the most part, it should be one of those tools. It's just a tool, right?
Yeah.
It's not the end
No,
all be all, but I think it's a tool.
I completely
Um,
agree with you.
so now that you're back in, you're doing your kind of your fitness. You've been doing this. You've gone through this kind of like new education piece about it. Has it changed any like direction of where you were going professionally and kind of your any aspirations?
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, yeah, all transparency, like I wanted to play soccer. I wanted to go play professional soccer. I was going to do a few trials. That's where I was headed. That was my career path. And, at first, right when I had to medically retire, everybody's like, almost immediately they were like, you should consider coaching. You should consider this and that. And honestly, I think I'm still at the spot where it's all a little too fresh for me. I miss it too much. I
Yeah,
miss it too much. Like watching that historical season with UNF, only having played half the season. Like a new staff comes in, everybody's buzzing. Like I was honored to be the first captain under him as the head coach, Jamie Davies. Shout out to the whole staff as well. I
shout
mean,
out to Jamie
absolutely, absolutely
and
amazing. Yeah,
Marlon and Alex, and yeah,
yeah,
these
man.
guys are awesome.
No, they are, and for them to see the value in me, you know, just having met me a couple weeks back for the spring and honoring me with the captaincy and to lead this team to what historical season they had, that was everything to me. And I was like, man, everything's happening like
Yeah,
just the way I needed to. And to watch from the sidelines after having
yeah,
to hang up the boots mid-season, oh man, that was hard. There were some days I couldn't go to training. I couldn't go
yeah.
strictly just because I missed it too much, man. And it's tough. And I'm getting a little bit better at it, but it's still too fresh for me. So I think I still need some time away from the game.
Yeah,
Um, as much as I love it, man, it's my whole heart and soul. But I still need some time away just because it's different when you're not on the field with the ball at your foot. So
oh, trust me, I know.
exactly, yeah,
I
exactly. I'm preaching to the choir here. Yeah,
well, but also no, but also like it's one of those things where when you're young, you don't really get to see, you don't have that 10,000 foot view, right? We get the 100 foot view. We're very emotional. We're attached to this thing.
Yep.
But there's certain things where I think, from outside looking in, where it's like, where can you contribute to the game if you are around the game? And again, some people, it's just a part of their, it was just a glimpse of their first part of their life, and they've moved on to another thing. And they just took what they learned from that and they applied it to this.
Exactly.
And either way, it's fine. I think for me, it's just like, we want healthy young adults contributing to society.
Exactly.
And then if you happen to play a sport, excellent. And hopefully you're good at it.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it is a concern, but at the same, I guess it's part of the game. I don't.
Yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk. I knew the risks when I played, and I was a very aggressive player. I by no means did I take this sport lightly, and I mean, I have to take ownership. I put myself in some difficult situations. I put myself in some very difficult challenges. But when I'm playing, I'm zoned in, and
Yeah,
when I'm locked in, there's no way I back out or halfway. And I knew the risks, but that, like you said, it's sport, man. That's the way of the game, and I wouldn't trade it for the world because
yeah,
that developed my character, man. And that's who guys look up to. That's what they remember me as, and I have no problem with that.
yeah.
I'm glad that I could be that guy. But that was just me,
Right.
and every soccer's a team sport. Don't get me wrong, but if there's one thing that I learned is you need to better yourself to better the people around you. So by all means, it's a team sport, but be selfish. Be selfish, right? In the sense of how can you push yourself and challenge yourself to the max? Because if you do that, other people see it, they do it themselves, and then you are in an environment with all like-minded individuals trying to achieve the same goal. That's exactly how we had the season that we had. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's because
yeah,
everybody dug in, focused on themselves, got through it, and then once everybody's on the same page, okay, now we have a job to do. Let's do it. So it's amazing. It's amazing to see, and I I'll never lose that competitive side of me, and obviously I want to take that into my career, and whatever that may be. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm finishing my master's this May,
okay.
so taking a bunch of different opportunities, different looks, but nah, man, I want to stay in the fitness world. I want to take this knowledge, and I want to be the. I don't want to just be some medically retired athlete who just works out and goes to the gym like any other guy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
right,
I want to be the guy who, yeah, I had to medically retire. I have TBI. I have all these things, but like, man, look at this guy run. Look at this guy lift. Like,
right.
look at him doing what he's all like. Look at that, and I want to take all of that, and I want to be an example for other people to look at and be like, wow, like,
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's
yeah,
it's the first part of a recovery process, and it's the first part of your journey to new things, and it can be very inspirational. And again, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation and share your story with whoever is willing to listen to it is really important. It's one of those things. One, you need to listen to your body. How many things are we doing to prevent? What are we doing on the preventative side? But are we listening to the medical professionals? Are you listening to your body? Are
yeah,
you actually doing what you're supposed to do? And if you are, and you're doing all those things, and you come to this position, kind of where you're at, then it's just like, okay, then how do you handle it? What do you need to do? You can continue to. I saw a post recently. Um, Maybe it wasn't a post, but it was like the kids identifying with their sport, like that is their identity. So when they lose their sport, they lose their identity.
that's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm in right now, man. Yep.
yeah, and I think that's one thing that uh, I I think that was one reason why playing multiple sports when you're young really does help with that identification process, because you're
Yep.
not a baseball player or a soccer player or a football player, right? You are an athlete that was able to do all of these things and develop
Exactly.
the physical. You were able to develop these physical qualities, but
Exactly.
then you got to choose kind of what you wanted to do
Yep.
and
For sure.
what you enjoyed and what you identified with. It, my favorite athlete of all time, and I'm a soccer nut. I'm watching. I have soccer on, right? I'm
Yep. Oh
literally
yeah.
catching up on my morning footy on the Galazzo network. Shout out to Galazzo. But I think it's Bo Jackson is my favorite athlete of all time.
Awesome.
I love Bo Jackson.
Yeah, man.
I've never I remember watching him and when he played for the Raiders and he got injured. I was watching the game. I'm going, oh, this is not good. But I'm looking at him and going, this is a great base. He's a good base player, good football player. I hear the track stories when he was in college and high school
Yep.
and going, wow, what an athlete. And I'm wondering, like, did he ever identify as a singular thing, or did he identify as Bo? And
Yeah.
this is who Bo is, and Bo does this, and you don't know Bo, right?
Exactly.
So
No, I think that's a great point, man. No, I think that's a great point, and that I'm in that kind of identity crisis, if you want to call it, right. There are
yeah,
moments that throughout the day I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm just like,
who am I?
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's all I had. Like soccer was my that's who I was. That was my character. That was my personality trait. Everything like that was it. Um, and yeah, it sucks when you think about it. Like I just think about other people. As humans, we all value the opinions of others, and I can't help but thinking they're like, oh man, Ethan was a good soccer player. Like, oh, he was this. I'm
Mm.
like, that's it. I'm like, man, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
what now? And
Well,
that's what I'm trying to figure out, man. So it's not easy, and this has been the hardest phase of my life for sure. Right,
yeah.
I hit rock bottom, like completely, full transparency, like everything. Um, and I'm working my way up, but by no means do I have anything figured out. Right, and
Right.
I feel like I'm very far behind because that it's just natural human tendency. Like if you see somebody else in a similar position as you or similar age, similar career, whatever it is, and you see them out there doing what you want to do, yeah, it sucks to
Yeah.
comparison, man.
Yeah.
It
Sure.
sucks, it's terrible, and yeah, it's hard, man. So I'm trying to figure it out, but by no means has it been easy at all. It's
Well,
tough.
listen. I think that you'll take the skills that you've developed as that player, right? And I know you're gonna find that next phase and you'll navigate it through and I really do think you'll be all right. I think that you'll figure out one of those things where you kind of like to do it right, whether it's you're training for the marathon and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go compete in one, and then
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do this, and but finding it's also part of that, like just finding that purpose, and you'll find the purpose. I mean, there was years where I was lost with I not identifying outside of soccer, and then I hated soccer.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it didn't treat me well. I didn't get what I wanted. It wasn't that. It was me just not recognizing certain things early on where I should have been able to identify where the game was going.
Yep.
And yep, my physical ability, right? My height as a goalkeeper didn't allow me to continue.
Yeah.
And the MLS was 2 years old. And I was not emotionally equipped and ready for college.
For sure.
So, I got abilities to do things at a high level early on, but it didn't allow me to grow and mature the way getting into like a college program
Yeah.
or right. But you'll find that maturity and you'll find um, you're like, all right, that was a cool part of my life. Now it's can look at every massive successful person. They're not doing one thing. They're doing they're doing six, seven
Exactly.
things.
Exactly.
You have a stand-up comedian who is a writer, and he's a stand-up comedian, but he's also an actor, and then he's this, and then you have smart engineers who are mathematicians, but
Yeah,
they've created this app for this and they've done this for that. They've applied that singular thing though to the
exactly,
big picture. So I think that if you just take that singular aspect of it and start applying it to
exactly.
different things, I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, and that's kind of, you hit the nail on the head. I think that's exactly what I want to do. You know, like I I was successful in college soccer. Don't get me wrong. I made a name for myself. I got some accolades, and I was very proud of myself and the work that I had put in. Right, so I had done that, but now my goal is I'm just so motivated to be that guy in some other aspect of my life or multiple other aspects, like you said. Can I be that guy in this industry or in this product or in this program,
Right.
this coaching,
Right.
whatever it is? And I'm extremely motivated because because of soccer, man.
Yeah.
That's who I am. That's that that's that competitor in me that wants to outwork and outcompete everybody else. You know what I mean? And I'm going to take that, and I know that's going to help me. I know it will. I may not
Well,
have it figured out, but man, in a year time, I can't wait. I can't wait till a year flies by, and how my name is somewhere, somehow, some way,
yeah.
and it's going to be
But
amazing. I'm going to
I
look back
also
in the
think that for
conversation.
you, I think for you, it has to start with
Exactly.
like your self recognition. Like, hey, even not having the name out there where people are like, oh, Ethan Ash was the soccer player. Now he's this. Oh, Ethan Ash, right? But I think if Ethan already is confident and is internalizing those things, I think having the name out there may not matter to you anymore.
No, and you're exactly right, and all that is part of the process of figuring it out. You know,
Yeah.
that's what drives me, and I think, like you said, the more I focus on keeping my head down, doing all the right things, everything that comes is going to come naturally. It's going to
Yeah.
come, and it's going to seem like that it was meant to be. You know what I mean? I there's a statement I love. It's like life's ironic tragedy. It's life happens forward, but only makes sense in reverse. And I absolutely love that, man.
That's a great quote.
I absolutely love it, man. And
Who said who said that quote?
I saw it on a, I saw it. Must have heard it. I think I read it somewhere online. I don't remember. I'll have to find out, but
What an
I
amazing
saw it and
quote.
I was like, man, that's amazing. So I can't wait for a
Well,
year,
that's
2 years.
hindsight was it hindsight is 2020?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So all you could play the what if game. You can do all that. You can torture yourself over all those moments, but later down the line, a year, 2 years, I can't wait to look back on this conversation and be like, yep, I was supposed to talk with Mr. James Walsh on this day, talking about this,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we'll look back. So no, I'm
That's
excited.
awesome, man.
I'm motivated for what's to come, and more motivated than I can say that I was a couple months ago,
A couple months
which is a
ago.
great sign.
Yeah, for
Which
sure.
is a
Well,
great
listen,
sign.
man. I'm I'm confident that you'll find your way. Um, I appreciate your time, dude. You've been gracious with your time. We've had these. You've opened up emotionally. You've done these things with us. So I think for me, man, is just keep digging, keep pushing along, and
Of course.
you'll find your way.
No, of course, man. Thank you. I want to thank you for having me on, man. I had a lot of fun, and this was the first time I actually like talked about all of this stuff in a public way, and because it's a very hard thing to do. It's very personal stuff, and yeah, I'm still going through it. But to kind of be able to talk about it, and maybe it resonates with somebody in some way, that I mean, man, I would love to help out because we can go through it together. Because I know I'm not the only
How
one.
what's your? Well, tell everybody your Instagram handle, and if they need
Yeah.
to hear it, what's it? What? How can they reach you?
Yeah, definitely. Instagram, just shoot me a DM over there. It's Ethan, Ethan, Ash, ASH, and then the Ash has three H's at the end. So Ethan Ash with three H's.
Awesome,
Yeah,
man. Well,
man.
listen, we'll be in touch. We'll obviously we'll see each other soon when we get our rings. Um,
Oh man. Oh yeah. Ring season. Gotta love it.
yeah, man. Listen, I'm super excited for you, and we'll be in touch.
All right, my man. I
All
appreciate
right,
you taking the time to meet with me again.
of course,
Catch
man.
up soon.
All right, see you
Have a
later.
good one.